Hi there, this is Clovis from Kinematic Lab. In this video I will talk about the UV mode. So first of all I will create a geometry. I will start with a geosphere like that, okay. And I will add a new modifier called UV deform, coming with our VecMap tools. So then I press the Paint Flow Map button and it opens the VecMap Painter tool in UV mode. Here you see, with the source geometry already set here. And the map already looks a bit different because now we paint 2D vectors to drive UVs, okay, and not 3D vectors to drive particles. So the map looks different. And I start painting like I did for the particles on the previous video. Okay, something simple like that. And if you want to see the result on your geometry, you first need to save the map. So I will call my map like that. And now you see that it shows some vectors here, okay. So you have to check the display vectors option, this modifier, and it just draws colored lines to show the vectors per vertex. Okay, so if I reduce the amount of vertices, okay, it will just reduce the amount of lines shown. So the more vertices you have, the more precise you will see your vectors here. Okay, so now what is the use for that? Well, let's add a shader and a map to our object. So I will create a standard and a checker here and apply it to the sphere. I will increase that. Okay. Okay. And now, if I play the animation, you see that the map seems to be deformed by our vectors. So actually the map is not deformed, but the UVs are deformed. So when you play the animation, you actually run a simulation which deforms your UVs using the vector map. So you see the vertices are not moving, but the UVs under the hood are moving, okay? Fine. And in this modifier you can set the speed here. So the deformation goes faster. So if I play for the moment, it's quite slow, but I can speed it up. Okay. Of course, at a certain point, depending on your deformation, the UVs start to distort too much. So you should use it to create subtle effects like a lava flow, for example, or something quite organic but subtle. You see on the edges here the UVs stretches too much. It's interesting effects as well, but sometimes it's not what you expect. Okay. And you can also move the 3D vertices instead of the UVs, and you have a multiplier here. So if I change UV deform to mesh, you will see that the vertices will really move, okay? Which could be interesting sometimes. And you can change the multiplication here. So this affects the mesh differently. You have to run the simulation again to see the result. So you kind of have the same result, but the use can be different. So let's paint a little bit more. So you see that the UVs are really distorted following these directions, okay? And you can change it from UVs to mesh deformations. And then to finish, because this is a simulation, you have to bake it to really use it. I mean, you cannot render it on different machines if you do not bake it, because it has to be simulated from 0 to the current frame. So you have to bake it. So basically you have to bake the deformed map, and it's quite easy to do that. You have to do a render to texture to render a sequence of your deformed map. So here is how you do it. You add an unwrap UVW modifier here, okay, and you change the map channel here, because the UV deformation is happening on map channel 1, so you have to move the UVs to another map channel, like map channel 3 for example. And then you go to rendering, render to texture. You choose a render setting here, so I will stay in scanline, default scanline renderer. Okay. And don't forget to activate the active time segments if you want to render a sequence. And in the mapping coordinates here, you have to be sure use existing channel is checked, otherwise it will create another unwrap, and choose the channel you changed in your UVW map modifier here. And then you just add the diffuse map. Okay. Also, the best in your shader is to put that in self-illumination, so you do not bake any shading or any lighting information. And I think that's it. Now you just have to choose the map name here and the destination there. So I will just create a little test folder. Okay. Now you choose the size of your map, but whatever, it's your choice. And that's it. You just hit render. Okay. And you see the map is rendered. Let's wait until the end. Okay, it's quite fast because the geometry is not too heavy. Okay. And now that it's rendered, you can delete the unwrap modifier and the UV deform modifier, and you can use the rendered sequence in your shader, for example. So I can put a bitmap here, load my vector map sequence, okay, and put it in the diffuse channel. make sure this is okay. So now if I just play the animation, you see that my map is baked. And you can play it quite smoothly. I rendered a quite small map, so the resolution here is a bit dirty, but that's good enough. So the good thing about rendering, I mean baking your map and using it in your shader, is that now your UVs are clean. I mean they are not changed anymore. If you go to unwrap and check how your UVs are, they are the regular UVs from the geosphere, and they are not deformed by the UV deform modifier now. So there is just the map happening here. So that's interesting, for example, in a displace modifier. So you could load that map inside that. And just increase resolution there. And you can quickly have some cool stuff happening there. So I'm using a checker map, so obviously this is not the best choice for this kind of effect, but it's easier to see what is going on in the deformation for the example here. And again, this is, for the moment, this is just displacement, so your geometry stays clean as much as possible. Okay, that's it. See you in the next video. Cheers.